I came to my best friend's mansion, originally intending to loaf around and live off her. However, I never expected to find that the upper floor was under renovation. There were 6-level bulletproof glass, an explosion-proof large vault door, and supplies such as cans and compressed biscuits filling the corridor. Whose house is this exactly? I couldn't help but murmur to myself. Why didn't the protagonist of this end of the world rebirth story take me along? I am a martial arts stunt double. It has been a long time since I got a chance to perform a hearty fight scene. Nowadays, the popular young actresses always like to take on dramas about chasing after their lovers and making amends. And I am responsible for being the substitute for getting beaten, doing stunts like jumping off cliffs, falling into water, and hanging on city walls. The audience enjoys it, and the young actresses earn a fortune, but I am covered in bruises all over my body and can't even get enough to eat. Fortunately, I have a best friend who is a food blogger with millions of followers. Every time I am physically and mentally exhausted, she can always bring me comfort. After going through a lot on the film set a couple of days ago, I came to the newly bought mansion of my best friend Qian and slumped on the bed to watch dramas. But who could have imagined that just 3 days after moving in, I was woken up by the sound of renovation upstairs at 7 in the morning again. Huasi. This sound had been ringing intermittently since the afternoon before yesterday. I came here precisely to have a good rest. I just moved to my best friend's secluded mansion, only to encounter such a thing. My anger upon waking up flared up immediately. I put on my slippers and stomped up the stairs. I was going to see which rascal was disturbing my rest early in the morning. Master, you've worked hard. Money is not an issue, but please finish the work within this week. Not to mention, this top-notch bulletproof glass is one thing, but adding a bank vault-level steel door. Are you building a prison for yourself? Just as I reached the stair corner, I saw boxes of all sizes piled up. Just as I was worried about where to step, I suddenly heard such a conversation, and my mind immediately became solemn. Alas, it's all because my wife has paranoid delusions of persecution. It's really hard for us men to marry a wife these days. A spitting sound came from the stairway. Here, big brother, have a cigarette. That's for sure. Nowadays, wives are getting more and more picky. You even have to coax them when they have a baby. Then an indignant echo followed, and the smell of cigarettes wafted over. This mansion was newly developed, and its hardware facilities were among the best in the country. Currently, not many people lived in the community. My best friend received the house half a year ago, and she hasn't even had a chance to move in yet. Looking at the boxes filling the corridor, I felt a bit familiar. After a closer look, I found that some were sent by my best friend's instant food partners. Most of them were food items like cans and compressed biscuits. Suddenly, some bad premonitions welled up in my heart. Although the conversation I heard was full of flaws, I simply didn't have time to detail it now, because I had acutely captured the key information. So I quietly returned to my room and started to sort out my thoughts. Bulletproof glass, explosion-proof doors, and the corridor filled with stocked goods. This was exactly the same as the zombie apocalypse novels I had been immersed in these 2 days. I couldn't help but think that either he was crazy or I was crazy. My first reaction was actually to believe that the end of the world was really coming. This was truly incredible. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep, so I anxiously scrolled through the news. 2 cases of rabies-related biting incidents occurred on the street in a certain city. During the summer vacation, parents are requested to closely monitor their children and keep a distance when being affectionate with cats and dogs. Suddenly, a notification popped up, and my heart immediately rose to my throat again. The machine sound from upstairs rang out again, and it felt like my bed was shaking along with the buzzing sound. At that moment, my subconscious made a decision for me. I immediately called my best friend and told her about this matter. What zombies, the end of the world? Qian asked in a low voice, clearly disbelieving at first. But she also knew that I wasn't the kind of person who would panic easily. I definitely wouldn't be so obsessed with novels as to act foolishly. So she immediately canceled her afternoon work and drove back. On the way, she had digested the information I told her and verified it with the property management. The house upstairs was bought 3 days ago. Currently, there were only 2 households living in the entire building, us and him. On her way back, I didn't idle around either. I took an inventory of the existing supplies at home. Due to the nature of Qian's occupation, there were numerous boxes of instant food, snacks, beverages, etc. sent by her business partners. For this very reason, a large warehouse was specifically reserved during the elaborate renovation. Currently, only 2 iron shelves were filled. If real zombies were to arrive, these supplies wouldn't be sufficient for Qian and me to last for 3 months. Buzz, it was the sound of entering the password at the gate. Qianqian had returned. I didn't know exactly when the urban area would fall. According to what the person upstairs said, there was at most 1 week left. Today was Tuesday. For the sake of safety, Qianqian and I discussed getting all the supplies ready by Friday and staying safely in the room. Even if there was no end of the world, we could just consider it as taking a 1 week break to recharge and then return to work next week without any delay. We didn't have some space-related cheat to go on a shopping spree in the supermarket, and it was also risky to spend all our savings based on some unfounded suspicions. After the discussion, we decided to split up. Qianqian would go back and move all the brand-related stockpiles in her current residence and the company warehouse to the garage. We would then move them back home at night when the person upstairs was asleep. As for other supplies besides food, I was in charge of taking care of them. Just as Qianqian left, the large barrels of water I ordered arrived. To avoid running into the person upstairs, I specifically led them up through the elevator on the other side. After solving the most crucial issue of drinking water, I drove my best friend's large off-road vehicle and rushed to various pharmacies. I bought a great deal of fever-reducing and anti-inflammatory drugs, vitamins, bandages for stopping bleeding, and so on. Subsequently, I headed to the shopping mall. I purchased paper towels, wet wipes both nighttime and daily, used sanitary napkins, body warmers, as well as daily necessities such as laundry detergent, shower gel, disinfectant, and so on. There were also long-sleeved down jackets, various thermal undershirts, blankets, and quilts. I also stocked up on survival kits including fans, ice silk pajamas, bamboo mats, cool pillows, binoculars, drones, and so on. The car was almost full. On the way back, I made a detour to the martial arts guidance company I had previously cooperated with. Before setting out to purchase, I had already utilized all my resources and made phone calls to many martial arts directors. I made an excuse that I was about to cooperate with a master of intangible cultural heritage in martial arts and urgently needed to purchase a large number of cold weapons, such as knives, sticks, whips, darts, daggers, and so on. I emphasized that they all had to be made of real materials and sharpened, not the kind that would break easily in immortal cultivation dramas. With my eloquence, I managed to stockpile a small amount from each martial arts director. There were only 2 or 3 pieces of each type, but the advantage was that the variety was complete, and the goods were genuine. Guns and explosives were beyond my reach. I could only rely on cold weapons for self-defense. That night, after confirming that there was no movement upstairs, Qianqian and I tiptoed to move the supplies she had barely managed to move in 10 trips throughout the afternoon from the garage into the house. We moved from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. When the sky was just getting light, we finally finished moving all the supplies. Qianqian and I collapsed onto the bed and fell asleep without even taking a shower. As of 12 noon today, there have been 11 suspected rabies-related biting incidents on the street across the country. The parties involved have all been subdued. Experts suspect that it is caused by wild parasites. The general public is requested to take precautions and strictly prohibit the consumption of wild animals. I slept until 2 p.m. Qianqian, who had never done such tiring work before, was lying in bed complaining. I opened my eyes sleepily and saw this news as soon as I opened the push notifications. The two of us looked at each other. Ignoring our fatigue, we quickly tidied up and went straight to the large fresh food supermarket. We split up and bought a large quantity of frozen meats such as chicken, duck, pork, beef, and mutton, grains, various prepared dishes, alcoholic beverages, and the bread and desserts we liked. After returning home, we sorted all the supplies by category. This took another whole night. All the shelves in the warehouse were filled with supplies. The next day, by the time we had finished summarizing and counting the supplies, it was already evening. Before the end of the world, we went to a Michelin-starred restaurant and enjoyed a delicious meal. Since the villas had independent water, electricity, and gas supplies, especially with a solar generator arranged as a backup for each building, and the doors and windows were all of anti-theft and bulletproof levels. And due to lack of time and not wanting to make too much noise, we didn't renovate on a large scale like the person upstairs. After carefully stockpiling all the supplies these days, Qianqian and I planned to stay in the villa. While the person upstairs still didn't know that we had also glimpsed the secret of the end of the world, we tried to reduce our presence as much as possible. We hoped that he didn't know that there were people living downstairs. Even if we were discovered, with both of us having abundant supplies, we could hopefully live in peace through the apocalypse. But at that time, we didn't know that this reborn and extremely annoying man would be the biggest disaster for Qianqian and me in the apocalypse. The apocalypse arrived earlier than I had expected. The night before, Qianqian and I were still discussing that if there was no end of the world, we would simply drive to Tibet. In the future, the unused supplies could be donated to the mountainous areas. The next day, we were woken up by the continuous notification sounds on her phone. When we opened it, it was an emergency notice forwarded in the property management group. Dear owners, there are suspected uncontrollable biting incidents in the main urban area. Please stockpile food, close the doors and windows, and do not go out unless necessary. Wait for further notice from the superiors. Thank you for your cooperation. Then followed a video of more than 10 seconds. The video was shot from a bird's eye view from a window, along with screams and ho-ho roars. The camera zoomed in and focused on a young man who was burying his head and gnawing on something. As if sensing it, he suddenly looked up and unexpectedly met the camera. The screen shook violently for a moment and froze on a close-up of his bluish-black skin, bloodshot white eyes, and a blood-stained big mouth, startling the two of us who were watching the video. The group exploded immediately. Everyone was chatting and forwarding many other videos. Resident of Building 3, Room 808. Are they zombies? Is the end of the world coming? Resident of Building 5, Room 1107. My wife works in the hospital. I heard rumors a few days ago. Resident of Building 5, Room 1001. Is there anyone who wants to team up to go to the nearby supermarket to stock up on food? It should still take some time for the infection to reach our area from the urban area. Resident of Building 6, Room 608. Security, open the door quickly. I'm at the gate of the community and haven't been bitten. The two of us immediately jumped up. After checking that the doors and windows were all closed, we lifted a corner of the curtain and observed the surroundings of the community with binoculars. Currently, no zombies had appeared, but there were several cars blocked outside the community gate by the iron gate, honking their horns desperately. When I looked up again, a zombie in a suit suddenly jumped out of the first car parked at the gate and pounced on the security guard, who had just opened the iron gate, biting him crazily. The iron gate of the community was wide open. The people in the cars behind realized that something was wrong and got out of the cars one after another, running desperately towards the unit building. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. The community, which had been safe just now, suddenly heard continuous screams. It was also uncertain whether there were any infected people among those who had successfully run into the building. It was clearly July, with the sun shining brightly, but I felt a chill in my heart. 2 weeks later, there were gradually more zombies on the road. But apart from their non-stop roars day and night, they didn't affect our lives. Buddha jumps over the wall, Beijing roast duck, Westlake fish and vinegar gravy, Zibo barbecue, spicy hot pot, hot and sour noodles, osmanthus fermented glutinous rice wine, jasmine green milk tea, triple flavored milk tea, oat milk green tea, mango pomelo sago cream, grape-filled golden brick. Qianqian, being a food blogger with excellent cooking skills and a great deal of research on food, and with a complete set of kitchen ingredients, I was fed every day. When I stepped on the scale, I found that I had actually gained 2 pounds. Since the water and electricity were not cut off, Qianqian, and I just had to be careful not to make too much noise or emit strong odors. Our lives were very comfortable. After eating and drinking well, we watched dramas, read novels, played games, chatted about gossip, and once even forgot that we were in the apocalypse. There were continuous messages in the community property management group. The property management once counted the resident information in the group. We lived on the 16th floor of Building 9, and the 17th floor upstairs was the top floor. These days, when Qianqian and I were chatting in the group, we noticed that the person on the 17th floor was also silent. The property management knew that Qianqian had bought the house but hadn't moved in. Although there might be records of our vehicle's entry and exit in the past few days in the security room, they couldn't obtain them now with zombies everywhere outside. After having a full meal and drink at night, Qianqian and I lit scented candles and drank the brewed fruit tea. Wearing headphones, we played It Takes Two and were laughing and playing. Suddenly, I faintly heard a clang-clang zhongji sound. I immediately hushed. Shoo, it seems there's some sound. Qianqian was startled by my seriousness and took off her headphones. Sure enough, in the quiet living room, a faint clang-clang, clang-clang echoed. She couldn't help but look panicked. I looked around and found that the sound came from the balcony. The balcony was enclosed with floor-to-ceiling windows. In the past 2 weeks, except for occasionally observing the outside, we had drawn the blackout curtains tightly. I tiptoed over and gently opened the curtain. In the darkness, I unexpectedly met a drone with a small red dot flashing. My mind went blank. I didn't know how to react for a moment. I quickly pulled the curtain shut again. Turning around, my voice was a bit shaky. Qianbao, we've been discovered. After the initial panic, the two of us sat down and carefully analyzed where we might have made a mistake, and what to do if someone came to rob us later. Before we could figure out anything, Qianqian received a friend request from the person on the 17th floor in the owner group. World's most passionate lover. Beauty, I'm your upstairs neighbor. World's most passionate lover. Don't be afraid. Look at how pale your little face is from being scared. It's quite cute. World's most passionate lover. You don't have much food left, do you? I have some. Come up and I'll protect you. Most of the residents' stockpiled food had been consumed in the past 2 weeks. Many people in the group were buying food at high prices. The person on the 17th floor didn't know that we had enough supplies and thought we were also facing food shortages. Unable to distinguish whether the other party was an enemy or a friend for the time being, Qianqian considered for a while and replied, "Thank you for your kindness. I still have enough food to last for a while. If you have a lot of food, you can help others in the group. Don't be shy. Haven't you ever lived with your partner?" Then he sent a photo of himself eating hot pot. I have everything here. Just come over. His intentions were so obvious. Qianqian couldn't help but feel disgusted when she saw his greasy face. Qianqian was a serious food anchor. Usually, she did live streaming to sell products. Occasionally, there were a few such vulgar people in the live streaming room. She would directly block and report them. But now the situation was a dilemma. Responding was out of the question, and completely ignoring him was also worrisome that he might cause some trouble. With such an uncertain factor, Qianqian and I were on tenterhooks in the following days. We were worried that he would tell others, and also had to face his greasy remarks. We could only take turns to perfunctorily reply a few words each day. We were going to be driven crazy sooner or later. The guy on the 17th floor was like a piece of stubborn chewing gum, trying to show off every hour or two. Qianqian and I had gone from being scared at first to being extremely annoyed now. Today, the phone was in my hands again. Is it the end of the month? Are you girls about to have your period? Brother understands. I know this can't be held back. I have sanitary pads here. Come and get them if you need. Brother is different from others. I'm not superstitious about this. You don't need to feel inferior. For some reason, the guy on the 17th floor suddenly became interested in girls' menstrual periods, and chatted with me for a whole day. No matter how I refused, he insisted that I was being stubborn. I held back the urge to go upstairs and stab him with my Tang Dao, and waved it a few times to vent my anger. Since these cold weapons arrived, I have been dragging Qianqian to practice every day, teaching her a set of grappling techniques, and some basic swordsmanship. In addition, because Qianqian has the need to be on camera, there are countless basic fitness equipment at home. We exercise for 3 hours every day without fail to better adapt to the end times. After being discovered by the guy on the 17th floor, Qianqian and I lost interest in everything. But we exercised even more frequently. We turned off the lights early every day, but tossed and turned and couldn't fall asleep. Qianqian even often hallucinated hearing knocking sounds, and was in a very poor mental state. I saw all this and my shy yi towards the guy on the 17th floor grew even stronger. In the middle of the night, I was woken up by Qianqian. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw her nervous expression. She made a shushing gesture and whispered, "Listen." I originally thought she was hallucinating again, and was about to comfort her. Before I could speak, I really heard faint rustling sounds coming from the living room. In an instant, my hair stood on end. I picked up the Tang Dao placed beside the bed, and tiptoed towards the living room. Qianqian also followed closely with a baseball bat. The sound was coming from the door. Someone was picking the lock. I realized this and secretly opened the peephole. The peephole was covered by something, and I couldn't see anything. I held the handle of the knife tightly, and waited behind the door. I looked back, and made eye contact with Qianqian. I was thinking whether it was a good opportunity to just open the door and chop. The sound of picking the lock suddenly stopped. After a rustling sound of plastic, followed by the sound of footsteps fading away. Just left like that? I looked through the peephole again. Through the moonlight from the window in the corridor, I saw a sneaky figure going straight upstairs. Now Qianqian didn't dare to sleep anymore. She carried the bedding to the sofa in the living room overnight, and insisted on staying there. I pondered for a long time, and told Qianqian the idea that had been simmering in my mind for these days. "Qianbao, let's get rid of him once and for all." Qianqian raised her thin little face with big dark circles under her eyes and hesitated for a moment. You mean?" I nodded firmly at her, and told her my plan. Originally, the sense of law and morality was still tugging at me. If the other party had just been simply harassing verbally, and hadn't done anything more excessive, I might have struggled for a few more days. But the behavior of the guy on the 17th floor tonight completely ignited my shy yi. Picking the lock in the middle of the night, I didn't dare to think about what would have happened to Qianqian and me if we hadn't been discovered, and if he had really opened the door. Since you have Buchun intentions, don't blame me for eradicating you completely. The plan was actually very simple. The biggest advantage Qianqian and I had was that the guy on the 17th floor didn't know there were two of us. I had just caught a quick glimpse of his back. He was about 175 centimeters tall, and by his figure, he didn't seem like someone who exercised regularly. I was confident that I could take him down alone, but the guy on the 17th floor had seen my face, so it wasn't easy to attack directly. The best way was still to find an opportunity to lure him into the house. I would confront him head-on while Qianqian would take the opportunity to attack. After listening to my analysis, Qianqian also got excited. The two of us discussed passionately for most of the night, and finally couldn't resist the sleepiness, and fell asleep on the sofa, snoring loudly. Unexpectedly, the opportunity came to us on its own. Early the next morning, I received a photo from the guy on the 17th floor of our door. There was a white plastic bag hanging on it, containing a pack of sanitary pads. World's most passionate lover. I put a bag of sanitary pads at your door. I know you don't have any. Don't be stubborn. I was really speechless. I had told him so much yesterday that not all girls have their periods at the end of the month like his ex-girlfriend, but he didn't listen at all. Or maybe he was just pretending to be stupid, and just wanted to find an excuse to get close. I thought of his lock-picking behavior last night. He first used the girl's period as a pretext. After failing to pick the lock, he continued to use sending sanitary pads as a cover, and sold a favor by the way. What a well-planned move. Seeing that I didn't respond, the guy on the 17th floor continued. Alas, this is just a physiological need, just like a guy needs to release. Brother helped you today. I don't ask you to repay me. Just keep it in mind. Someday help brother too. At this time, we should help each other, or people will be behoth. Looking at the big-toothed emoji he sent, I wished I could rush up and knock out his teeth. It's really funny, folks. It's the end of the world and this annoying guy is still self-indulging, distorting concepts, and morally blackmailing others. Fortunately, the security in this high-end community was in place, and he didn't succeed in picking the lock. In addition, he didn't dare to make too much noise and let others discover that someone lived on the 17th floor. After discussing with Chanchian, we decided to seize the opportunity and lead him into the house according to his wishes. I pretended to be touched by his act of going downstairs to send sanitary pads, despite the zombies, and said several thank yous in a row, saying that it had just solved the urgent need for my period next week. After Chanchian hid, I glanced at the peephole to make sure it was safe outside, and quickly opened the door to take the sanitary pads. My original intention was to worry that there might be a monitoring device in the sanitary pads. In order not to expose Chanchian's existence, I was going to wrap them in a black bag and deal with them later. Unexpectedly, at the moment I closed the door, a hand blocked the threshold. At that moment, the first thought in my mind was that I couldn't let him die at the door. If the blood was not handled properly, it might attract zombies. Then I controlled my hand that was about to draw the knife, and picked up the baseball bat placed behind the door. It's me. I'm from the 17th floor. In the few seconds I hesitated, the guy on the 17th floor had pushed the door open and entered. His cheeks were slightly chubby, his eyes were each on a slit, and the corners of his mouth were smiling so much that saliva was almost dripping. Oh, it's you, brother. I thought it was a zombie. I quietly closed the door, trapping the dog in the house. Seeing that it was so easy to get in, and me looking like a delicate girl who had just woken up, the guy on the 17th floor got carried away for a while, and came up to touch my hand. Don't be afraid, brother. I smiled and turned around to clasp his wrist. Before he could finish speaking, I kicked him straight in the chest. Don't underestimate the strength of a martial artist. I used all my strength for this kick, and almost sprained my waist. The guy on the 17th floor was knocked to the ground by me. At this time, Chanchian had also rushed up and hit him on the head with a stick, not giving him a chance to resist at all. Let you have evil intentions. Let you harass girls. Chanchian scolded while hitting, venting her anger fiercely. I waved the baseball bat in my hand and joined in, hitting his head specifically. For a while the sticks were flying. The guy on the 17th floor didn't even have a chance to shout for help and lost consciousness. Chanchian and I didn't realize that the other party had long lost his breath, until we were exhausted from hitting. We gasped for breath, and looked at each other. The original plan was to lure him to the house at night, get rid of him, and then throw him out of the corridor window. Now it was broad daylight. Throwing something from a high altitude was too easy to be discovered by others. So we had to stuff the body into a suitcase first, and deal with it at night. After locking the suitcase, we took the key we found on him, and went up to the 17th floor. According to the previous conversation with him, the guy on the 17th floor discovered us purely by accident. He routinely patrolled with a drone that day. When he was about to take it back, he suddenly remembered that the property management had told him before that the 16th floor had been sold, but the customer had never moved in. He somehow came to knock on our window. Unexpectedly, he really found something. I wonder if the guy on the 17th floor would regret his decision to knock on the window when he knew the current outcome. The 17th floor was much more prepared than us. Besides 2 anti-theft doors at the entrance, an additional explosion-proof vault door was installed. As soon as we opened the door, an indescribable smell rushed up. There were instant noodle bowls and packaging bags everywhere in the room. Chanchian and I covered our noses and quickly searched around. Chanchian and I didn't lack food and water. We moved the simple vegetable garden on the balcony, several large bags of nutrient soil, various seeds, as well as the reed chicken coop and rabbit hutch downstairs. We even found the unused window privacy film. The most pleasant surprise for us was that the computer in the bedroom had hacked into the community's surveillance system. We could see the situation of all the other buildings except our Building 9. The surveillance of Building 9 should have been damaged by the guy on the 17th floor a week ago. I couldn't help but feel a little scared. At that time, we were half believing and half doubting about the end times and didn't think about destroying the surveillance. Although we tried to avoid it, we couldn't guarantee that we wouldn't be photographed by the surveillance in the corner. The guy on the 17th floor had inadvertently helped us clear our tracks. The two of us moved the computer and the mainframe downstairs, and made it look like there were only a few books on the table. Actually, we weren't without the thought of moving up here to live directly. But when the guy on the 17th floor renovated on a large scale, the decoration team came in and out of the community. I didn't believe that the property management didn't notice. Although the large vault door was safe, it was also announcing to the world that I had supplies here. No matter how good a golden or silver nest is, it's not as good as one's own humble home. After discussing with Chantian, we still decided to move the things we needed and continue to hide in our own small home. Before leaving, I specifically erased the traces of someone rummaging through and took the drone that had recorded me along. Building 9 was located deep within the entire community. From one side, one could overlook the mall of the whole community, while the other side faced a large green mountain, a proper mountain view house, and its housing price was considerably more expensive than that of other buildings. At 3 a.m., I sent the drone out for a flight, and Chantian quickly pasted the glass privacy film on the floor to ceiling windows of the balcony facing the mountain, the very window through which the person on the 17th floor had discovered us before. In this way, the vegetable garden, chicken coop, and rabbit hutch could all bask in the sun on the balcony, and we could finally achieve freedom in obtaining vitamins and protein. Subsequently, Chantian and I used the drone to inspect the corridor up and down 3 times. Indeed, the unit door was tightly locked, and there were no people or zombies in the entire building 9. Then, we dragged the suitcase containing the body of the person from the 17th floor down to the 1st floor. Chantian carefully patrolled with the drone, and I threw the body of the person from the 17th floor out of the corridor window on the side facing the mountain. Below was a thicket of bushes, and the sound of the landing was quieter than I had imagined. Through the window, I heard the low roars of the zombies swarming up. I watched as the zombies devoured the body of the person from the 17th floor, until there was not even a skeleton left. We didn't linger. After returning to the 16th floor, I specifically pressed the elevator back to the 1st floor to completely erase the traces of tonight's actions. Time passed like this for another week, and there were only more zombies downstairs. After eliminating the hidden danger of the person on the 17th floor, Chantian and I didn't have much time to be happy. Through the surveillance computer, we discovered that there were cases of looting in Building 3. Chantian recognized the leader as the property management chief, that man who had always greeted every owner with a smile. At this moment, he was leading the security team to carry out arson, killing, and looting on the residents of each floor of Building 3. What was bound to come still came. Another week passed. After the property management emptied the entire Building 3, they directly set their sights on the 17th floor. Resident of room 1701 in Building 9, you started renovating a week before the zombie outbreak and illegally blocked the stairwell. Do you know something? You must have a lot of supplies. Can you take them out to relieve everyone? Many people in the community are starving. Building 3, where the property management was located, and Building 9 were diagonally opposite each other, spanning the entire community. During this period, people could not bear the hunger and inner panic, and jumped off buildings one after another. The team of zombies wandering around the community all day grew larger and larger. It was a dead end to come here rashly. It seemed that the property management wanted to use the people in the adjacent buildings as the vanguard, and deliberately sent the message in the owner group. These days, the temperature had dropped sharply. Chantian and I had already put on our padded clothes. At this moment, we were eating sandwiches while paying attention to the commotion caused by these 2 sentences inside each building through the surveillance. There were those questioning and those pleading in the group. They all wanted to get some supplies from the 17th floor, but they were destined not to get a response from the 17th floor. Chantian and I were not as worried as we were when facing the person on the 17th floor. Instead, we were even a bit expectant. Currently, no one had discovered that we were also hiding in Building 9. The 17th floor had abundant supplies, and there were not many people left in the community. If distributed fairly, it would be enough for everyone to eat and drink for half a year. If we weren't worried about being exposed, Chantian and I would have been eager to distribute the supplies by ourselves. Those supplies would just expire if left unused. It would be good to help one person if possible. In the end times, people's hearts are unpredictable. If there are really some blind-eyed people who come to cause trouble, whether it's 1 or 2, we'll cut them down. It doesn't matter. At worst, Chantian and I will turn into zombies and chase after our enemies, biting them hand in hand. Trapped at home continuously for over a month, the signal in the community was only strong enough to send messages. Website news couldn't be refreshed. The only daily amusement was listening to the roars of the zombies downstairs. Now both Chantian and I were in a very wonderful mental state. Life is short. If we can't live, we'll die. If we don't die, we'll live. It's no big deal. The looting of the 17th floor by the community residents was not as peaceful as I had imagined. That night, a team was formed in the nearest Building 8. Under the cover of the broadcast from other buildings, they took the lead. Holding the unit card and elevator card delivered by the property management's drone, they went up to the 17th floor. They didn't abide by the agreement of taking pictures first when entering the house. They stayed upstairs for half an hour, took a picture of the vault door, and then returned without success. They were lying. When Chantian and I left, we imitated the frequent suicide incidents in the community recently. The anti-theft door and the vault door were not locked, creating a false appearance that the person on the 17th floor had jumped off the building due to depression. It wasn't that we were overly kind-hearted. I was afraid that if everyone really couldn't open the door, they would turn around and discover us. Moreover, in the end times, creating a case of disappearance in a locked room would make them even more suspicious that there were other people in the building. It was better to arrange a reasonable end for the person on the 17th floor. Qianqian and I watched in the surveillance as the team from Building 8 divided the supplies they had secretly brought back in the corridor. We were a bit puzzled. Clearly, there were so many supplies on the 17th floor, and Building 8 couldn't obtain them on its own. Why didn't they cooperate sincerely with everyone? Stealing like this couldn't transport much, and it was also likely to cause a trust crisis. Sure enough, after 2 consecutive times, the other buildings began to protest. They had scattered to attract the firepower of the zombies, but had gained nothing. They all shouted in the group that the unit door couldn't withstand the impact of the next wave of the zombie tide. Building 8 refused to exchange and divide the work, but they had been noticed with their bulging bags when going in and out. In the next cooperation, whether intentionally or not, the music outside stopped before the team from Building 8 could safely return to the building. This time, almost the entire building was destroyed. Qianqian and I saw it clearly in the surveillance. The infected people in the team entered the building. Within 2 days, there were no living people left in the entire Building 8. In just 1 week, Qianqian and I had seen too much intrigue in the surveillance and the group, the stabbing in the back between buildings, which was even more dramatic than TV dramas. Lingling, perhaps we shouldn't have opened the anti-theft door. Maybe then they would have united to break the door. Qianqian, wrapped in a down jacket, sighed while picking up the eggs of the reed chickens. No one had entered Building 9 this week. The reason was simple. The property management was reluctant to hand over the last spare unit card, unless everyone came to cover for them. But with the lesson from Building 8, this cooperation did not materialize. After each building tried to act alone and failed, the battle situation reached a stalemate. But in this way, the risk of our exposure will increase, and our original intention was to help them get the supplies earlier. To be honest, I really didn't expect things to develop like this. Now the weather was getting colder and colder. What was worse, the power in the community went out. 2 days ago, Qianqian and I had cleared 1 refrigerator to lighten the burden on the solar generator. The surveillance cameras in each building had all stopped working. Qianqian and I returned to the rhythm of eating, drinking, and playing games as before. Perhaps due to the pressure of the power outage, 3 days later, the owner group finally elected a representative. After reaching several major agreements with the property management, they led the team to Building 9 together. The orderly transportation of supplies lasted for a week. Qianqian and I took turns on duty at night, fully armed with knives, staring from behind the door, fearing that they would suddenly turn to the 16th floor. The houses in the community that had not been sold were not renovated. Not to mention furniture, even the heating was not connected. In the weather of nearly -30°C, Qianqian and I were not worried that anyone would stay in Building 9 for this reason. The standby time of the zombies also became longer. Without any movement, they could maintain one position all day. But once there was any sound, they would rush towards the target at a faster speed than before. The supplies on the 17th floor should have been completely divided up. This transportation had cost nearly half of the people. There were wails in the owner group, and there was a long-lasting harmony in the community. When the temperature dropped to -60°C, Qianqian and I had cut off the power to all the refrigerators and concentrated the electricity on the electric heating board and cooking. Except for the necessary trips to the toilet, we wouldn't even get out of bed to eat. The entire bed was already covered with warm clothes. The signal had completely disappeared. Qianqian and I just lay in bed every day, chatting while holding hot water in thermos flasks. We had thoroughly gone through the more than 20 years of each other's memories. I didn't know how long such muddled days had passed. I even suspected that there was only our household left in the entire community. The vegetable seedlings, chickens, and rabbits we had planted earlier had long been frozen to death. We tried every means, and even brought the last little rabbit into the bed, but still couldn't save it. Sometimes, when I opened my eyes and saw the vast expanse of snow outside, I would question whether I was already in heaven. Qianqian had grown up in the south since childhood. When the first snowflake fell, she was extremely excited, and exclaimed that she would go out to build a snowman after the zombies were eliminated. Now it seemed like it was something from a previous life. The zombies had been completely buried by the snow. Not only the zombies, but also the traces of human existence were about to be buried by this heavy snow. We discovered the temperature rise, because one night I was actually woken up by the heat. I quickly looked at the thermometer on the table. It was -40°C. After learning this news, Qianqian and I were so excited as if the end times were about to end. We finally got out of the original living dead state, and began to gradually return to normal. We cleaned up the garbage on the floor of the room that we hadn't been willing to clean because it was too cold, and reorganized the remaining food. We even started to grow vegetables again. Half a month later, along with the melting of the snow, the zombies began to revive. From time to time, hoarse roars came from downstairs, as if we had returned to the time when the outbreak had just started. Although there was no evidence, Xianxian and I still firmly believed that everything was developing in a good direction. We became energetic again and started to make small cakes and creative dishes, and even tried to repair the frozen damaged TV. On an ordinary morning, the military's broadcast sound came from afar. Xianxian and I finally heard the voices of other humans in the world. Dear residents, thank you for your year-long persistent struggle and trust in the government. Now the anti-zombie treatment has been clinically successful. We will arrange the military to escort you safely to the nearest human base. Please raise a red cloth to signal, and let us welcome the dawn together.